So Marjorie Taylor Greene was suspended from Twitter. And we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to mention what Fauci said on only using the US branded vaccines. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, has been very vocal about her vaccine hesitancy. She's been vocal about a lot of things regarding the COVID narrative. Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody that ideologically leans very far right. She has said very problematic things. But, you know, we need to protect free speech, especially during the time of Julian Assange, when we're seeing what's happening with somebody who published something that the public needed to know, right? When we're talking about the cables, when we're talking about WikiLeaks. And so the fact that she was taken off of Twitter just goes with the trend that we're seeing, where even if you're the president of the United States, they can take you off Twitter. And if you're Marjorie Taylor Greene, they can take you off Twitter. If you are, you know, what's his name? Like blanking out. Dr. Robert Malone, they can take you off Twitter. They suspended Peter McCullough too for a short time. So they can take anybody off Twitter. They took me off Twitter. They didn't even give me a response, and then they said it was a mistake. But the Marjorie Taylor Greene situation, a lot of people on the left are happy about because they don't like her. So again, we're experiencing the same sort of thing. So The Hill said Twitter said on Sunday it permanently suspended the personal account of Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, over social media platforms' COVID-19 misinformation policy. The social network said in a statement that it took the action after repeated violations of privacy. So they actually released a whole statement telling everybody that why they suspended her. They said, we permanently suspended the account you referenced at Marjorie Taylor Greene for repeated violations of our COVID-19 misinformation policy. We've been clear that per our strike system for this policy, we will permanently suspend accounts for repeated violations of the policy. This is what a Twitter spokesperson told The Hill. She was previously suspended before, though, for several times for supposedly violating the same policy. She received a 12-hour suspension in July regarding 2 tweets she posted in which she falsely claimed COVID-19 was, quote, not dangerous for people who are under the age of 65 or not obese. We can talk about that later on Rokfin Only. In August, her personal account was suspended for a week after she claimed that, quote, these vaccines are failing and do not reduce the spread of the virus, and neither do masks. That's what she said. And the COVID-19 vaccines, according to The Hill, have proven to, and the CDC, to be safe and effective against severe infections. The disease is severe and deadly, especially among the elderly and immunocompromised, and has repeatedly overwhelmed hospitals, etc. So I just want to go over, show you guys a little bit of the Twitter COVID policy. It says, overview December 2021, you may not use Twitter's services to share false or misleading information about COVID-19, which may lead to harm. And you can see that they say, even as scientific understanding of the COVID-19 pandemic continues to develop, we observe the emergence of persistent conspiracy theories, alarmist rhetoric, unfounded in research or credible reporting. What is credible reporting? And a wide range of false narratives and unsubstantiated rumors, which left uncontextualized, can prevent the public from making informed decisions regarding their health and puts individuals, families, and communities at risk. Content that is demonstrably false or misleading and may lead to significant risk of harm, such as increased exposure to the virus or adverse effects on the public health system, may not be shared on Twitter. This includes sharing content that may mislead people about the nature of COVID, the efficacy and or the safety of preventative measures, treatments, or other precautions to mitigate or treat the disease. Official regulations, restrictions, or exemptions pertaining to health advisories or the prevalence of the virus or risk of infection. So you can't say anything that, in their point of view, just like on YouTube, discourages people from taking the vaccine. You can't say anything, even if it's true. Even if it's true, or if you can find a scientific study, as Robert Malone did, you can't say that anymore because your account will be taken down. And so we can talk about, other forms that have been pushed, on Rokfin Only, but some of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene said were actually said by the CDC. So it's kind of crazy to me that they suspended her. Now, aside from the COVID-19 argument, whatever people believe in, the fact is free speech should be protected, right? Unpopular speech should be protected even more, because if you're not willing to protect unpopular speech, you're really not protecting speech at all. because you have to protect speech you don't like just as much as you have to protect speech you do like, if not more, because then you don't really believe in free speech at all or freedom at all. Pasta.
Absolutely. I just want to say ditto to that. I mean, that's the most important thing here, right? It's the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And, I always hate getting into this argument, fam, when you tell people, oh, it's a private company. Yeah, it's a private company that's entered into public easements. There are satellites they use that are ours. They put their fiber optics in their lines through governmental owned land. There's been laws in place for a long time when it comes to television and radio on how they have to approach speech. And how speech should be protected. I even heard a conservative the other day, fam, saying that they want these to go to utilities. And it was kind of crazy saying that they want, a private entity to go to a utility. But this is about the public square. And that is the most important thing. Speech needs to be protected. I got less than 2 days left before I go on there as well. I even retweeted Dr. McCullough. That was the first time I got taken down. And, with the new case that just came out with John Stossel over from Fox News when he went after Facebook and a couple of the tech giants, they even admitted, fam, they don't have facts. They have strongly protected opinions. Right. So everything is up, everything is down. It's all over the place. It's very confusing. Some people still keep pointing to Section 230 of the NDAA. It needs to be rewritten because it's not clear what it is. It's not clear what a platform is. But, this is something that's been going on for a long, long time. They've been slowly taking away all the protections for the people when it comes to speech. And that's what we're faced right now. It's almost crazy that we're living in a time where they're taking things down left and right, even when they are repeating the words directly from the CDC, fam.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say, too, regarding that is if you live... Twitter isn't a small, tiny private entity. There is legislation being made with these big tech and surveillance, gigantic corporate, just giants in Congress. They literally have a say as to what the legislation is made. So they're accepting a certain narrative. So you can't say that Twitter is its own private company. You can't say that, especially when you have a government that is an oligarchy where you have corporations have merged with the government. It is no longer a private entity, and there are no fact checkers. There are no, there is no truth. It's like it's their opinion of what is the correct narrative that is truthful. Because we have seen many times where people bring up studies and things that contradict the current narrative, but they're actually based in science, and they get taken down too, whether or not you believe them or whether or not you think they're valid. If they're bringing up data or if they're quoting the CDC, I'm still seeing people get taken down by quoting the same thing the CDC is saying. So obviously this isn't rooted in truth. It's more rooted in what the narrative that they want to present is. And Alex Rubinstein said it really well. He said social media banning elected officials, whether a rep like MTG or the president of the United States, is actually anti-democratic. For all the Democrats' hand-wringing we see about threats to democracy, they conveniently overlook big tech power when their enemies are censored. And that's what we see happening a lot on the left. They cry when they get censored, but they don't care when somebody on the right gets censored, which lends itself to hypocrisy. And the right does it too. They don't really, a lot of them don't really talk about when somebody on the left gets censored. And so we see this, once again, team sports mentality playing out where it's really, they're just playing you guys against each other. The reality is free speech of all kinds, whether you agree with it or not, should be protected.
As long as you're not inciting violence, we know the laws. As long as you're not breaking the real laws is what, what's put in place. And the crazy thing is, if you ever watch any of these hearings, fam, 90% of it is just like the left. They want more censorship from these people. They think they should be able to silence their opponents or their opponents' opinions. And the right, the conservative establishment right, the 40% of them, right, the rest of the 40%, I'd say about 90% of the Republican Party is out to censor different people. They want Iran censored more. They want China censored more. It's only a little sliver of a few members who are the libertarians that, want free speech out there, period. So we don't have a lot of friends in Washington when it comes to this situation. And I think things are going to get worse before they get better. And I'm only crossing my fingers and hoping that they get better, because now the new CEO of Twitter, he's on a rampage, fam. Yeah. And he's taking down reputable doctors that had great ratings online for their patients even before COVID came along. So these are compassionate, great doctors like McCullough, like Malone. And the fact that they're just shutting them down left and right is crazy. Like you said, Freedom of speech means all speech, even the speech you don't like, especially the speech you don't like, fam.
Yeah, and just one last thing on that, it backfired when they took Robert Malone off Twitter. He went on Joe Rogan, and that's like the most watched video of Joe Rogan's ever. It might be one of the most watched videos in history. And also, a lot of people are Googling who he is now because they're like, why was he taken off Twitter? A lot of people are Googling who Joe Rogan is, who didn't even know who he was. They're like, I've never heard of him. So now what they're doing by trying to silence voices of dissent is they're making them more popular. And so this this new platform came out. I think it's called Gettr, Gettr, where a lot of people started signing up there. And Joe Rogan already has like so many followers on there because now people are like, you know what, screw Twitter. So a lot of people were like, I'm going to make an account elsewhere. So all they're doing is amplifying these voices and amplifying the need to be like, wait, what's going on? What are they trying to censor here? Why are they doing this? It's actually making people distrust the current narrative more. It's making people distrust the government. It's doing the opposite of what these people intended to do. And I can attest to that because when my account was taken down, there was so much like, why was her account taken down, blah, 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 that it actually trended on Twitter and it made it worse for them. They were like, so it was just like this thing where it actually raised my profile more by being censored than not being censored. And that's something that if they were smart, they would pay attention to.
Well, when it gets too much noise, that's when they react, right? You know, I was talking to Jason Burmis, and Jason Burmis got a lot of people to retweet his YouTube stuff, so YouTube gave his channel back. And of course, they slipped it behind him around the back and gave him a strike for something he did a while ago too as well. That stuff seems to happen all the time. But yes, when stuff starts trending and gets going on Twitter or on YouTube or wherever, that's when, you know, the elites or whoever they are, you know, the tech giants, the CEO, that's when they pay attention.
Yeah.
That's when we have to, if you want to say the surveillance state, there you go. I was thinking about the CEO of Twitter and CEOs of Facebook and, you know, the Zuckerbergs and whatnot. When they pay attention, like, okay, let's give them their channel back. They're making too much noise. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we got to do now. When this stuff happens, we got to get it going. We got it trending. We got to share why they got taken down. We got to blast it. But, you know, fam, it's an uphill battle because they've taken down so many accounts from Twitter. And a lot of sensible people have said, you know what, I'm taking my ball and going home. I don't want to play anymore. So like I said, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But we got to do something about this collectively as citizens to push back against the censorship. Fuck censorship, fam.
Fuck censorship.